Time is now 7:02, and I'm going to reconvene to open session and call to order the regular board meeting on Monday, March 19th, 2018 for the Indian Prairie School District 204. Jackie, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Rising?
Here.
Ms. Deming?
Here.
Mr. Razak?
Here.
Ms. Price?
Here.
Mr. Carubas?
Here.
Ms. Peel?
Here.
Ms. Deming, could you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I think we have one board salute. Ms. Deming.
Congratulations to the following District 204 students for their exceptional participation this past weekend in the Afro-Academic, Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics, known as ACSO initiative. It is a year-long achievement program designed to recruit, stimulate, and encourage high academic and cultural achievement among African American high school students. Congratulations to Waubonsie Valley students Keenan Collier and Hunter Tate, Mattia Valley students Kyla Wesley and Michaela Wesley, and from Nequa Valley, Allison Amagashi, Ethan Covington, Riziki Covington, Amani Porter, Jasmine Walker, and Amira Yusufu. Congratulations to all.
Thank you. And now it's time for our student representative report. Today we have Alexa Jordan from Mattia Valley High School. Alexa, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alexa Jordan, and I am the class of 2018 Executive Board Representative for Mattia Valley Student Government. And I look forward to sharing with all of you the many exciting developments that we have had at Mattia in the past month. On February 28th, a delegation of 9 students from Mattia Valley met in this building with students from both Waubonsie and Nequa to discuss the message and schedule of the school walkout that was scheduled for and carried out on March 14th. On March 14th, approximately 700 Mattia students were in attendance, and these individuals were able to engage in a short march, 4 student speakers, a moment of silence, and a rendition of Amazing Grace. While promoting student safety, student voice, and community unity, we joined thousands of other schools across the nation to proclaim that we want change. Student government is currently engaged in a letter-writing campaign to our representatives, and prior to the walkout, hosted poster-making sessions from March 12th to March 13th. Additionally, the 69th Annual YMCA State Convention of Youth in Government convened in Springfield, Illinois this past weekend. Mattia Youth in Government currently has a delegation of 71 members. Alexis Bass was elected as the president of the Senate, becoming the first state-elected leader from Mattia. Both legislators and attorneys performed exceptionally well, placing in every category. 14 attorneys and 1 legislator from Mattia were awarded. Additionally, our BPA, Business Professionals of America, chapter had their state leadership conference March 1st to March 3rd. BPA currently has 160 members. 87 of those members qualified to compete in the state competition, and out of those 87 students, 25 students qualified for the national competition that will be hosted in Grapevine, Texas. Additionally, during the week of March 12th, World Language Week, the World Language Department hosted several noteworthy cultural events. This included the Olas Latina dance named La Primera Flor, Love Without Borders concert, and a World Language Career Fair. Furthermore, we would like to congratulate our physical education staff members for Mattia's 2nd Blue Ribbon Award for PE and Health. Additionally, on March 8th, Mattia hosted the Special Olympics swim meet. Students from Best Buddies, Peer Partners, junior and senior PE leaders, and other student organizations were able to volunteer to run the event. Additionally, boys track and girls track are off to a wonderful start, and the girls track indoor conference was a great success for the Lady Mustangs. Laura Roney placed 1st overall in the 400 meter. The boys track team competed in the Plainfield East meet last Thursday, where junior Price Giwa Osagi went 6'3" in the high jump. 2 days later, the team traveled to Purdue University for the West Lafayette Individuals Invite. Senior Charlie Schaefer took second in the 800 meter, and in the mile, junior Michael Varzino placed first overall. Jansen Gamilla, one of our athletes of the month, competed in the state swimming finals on February 23rd and 24th in 4 events. He was a key member of the 14th place 200 medley relay and finished 18th in the 200 individual medley and 9th in the 100 butterfly. His time in the 100 butterfly qualifies him for an All-American consideration. On February 27th, violinist Dr. V.J. Gupta engaged our 900 music students in an interactive presentation where he explained how he brings music to those who most need it. As a TED Senior Fellow, Gupta is a gifted speaker who weaves stories about music's power to inspire hope with his performances of Bach's music. And finally, Metea Valley would like to recognize the student artists that received 2 gold keys, 7 silver keys, and 10 honorable mentions at the Scholastic Art Competition this month. Furthermore, 44 Metea student artists have been selected to be put on exhibit in the upcoming Naperville Women's Club exhibition. That's all I have for this night's board report, so thank you all. I know that was quite a lot. I told you, a lot of exciting updates, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexa. And now it's time for public comment for non-agenda items. If you are here to speak to an agenda item, the comment will be taken immediately prior to that item. 30 minutes is allowed for public comment, and each person is limited to 3 minutes. When addressing the board, we ask that you respect the confidentiality and safety of our students and school district personnel. We also ask that those addressing the board be cognizant that this is an open meeting and is available to all age groups, and as such, ask that you consider who the audience members are this evening and keep comments age appropriate. Public comment represents the voice and opinion of the speaker. There will be no feedback from board members during the meeting, but follow-up will be provided by an administrator as appropriate. Our first speaker today for public comment, Carrie Clem. Yes, come on up. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for letting me come tonight. I'm Carrie Clem. I have an 8th grader at Fisher and a 4th grader and a 2nd grader at Steck. I am here tonight to talk about the class sizes at Steck, and while both my 2nd grader and my 4th grader currently sit in classrooms over 31 students, I'm here specifically to talk about my 4th grader and the 4th grade situation. I know you as a board do not make class size decisions, but I know that the superintendent's office does, and that you guys work closely together. The 4th grade at Steck has an unusually high number of children with special needs of all kinds, including a large number of undiagnosed behavioral issues, some of which are actually quite severe and very challenging. Add to this a rather sophisticated social clique among the neurotypical children and some very hands-off parents, and we have been dealing with a very challenging group of kids for our entire school career. This year, those challenges have become completely unmanageable, and I believe this is due in largest part to our class sizes, which currently sit at 32, 33, and 34 students. While other class years might be able to make it work in this environment, and in all fairness, my 2nd grade son is making it work, this specific group of personalities, needs, and parents are not holding up very well. Academically, I've heard from parents in all 3 classes who have seen their children's grades slip. My own child's grades have slipped greatly. I'm paying $50 a week for a tutor, and our grades are still slipping. Socially, however, the situation has steadily grown worse over the year. Quite frankly, our 4th graders have gone rogue. I don't really have another better explanation for it. They no longer have respect for our teachers, our administration, or our lunch monitors. The taunting and bullying are at levels that are very extreme and include racial and gay slurs regularly. There is unrelenting swearing and inappropriate subject matter being discussed among the kids, and there have been several violent physical fights, both in the classroom and at recess. My daughter, my 4th grade daughter, has been exposed to more violence, sexual content, and downright bullying and harassment in 4th grade than my 8th grade daughter has ever seen. There just simply are not enough adults to deal with these issues as they keep popping up, and they can't keep an eye on the aftermath. And as a result, many of our students have stopped going to adults for help, and they are no longer advocating for themselves or others. It's important to note that we missed having 4 sections by 1 student. And in August, our principal argued against this choice because she knows, yes, that this is a challenging group of kids, but also she had already been contacted by families with 4th graders who are moving into our school through the new under construction neighborhood that was just added to our boundaries last year. Even though we knew that those new students would begin joining us as early as mid-September, the district stuck to its plan to consolidate our students into 3 sections. And as luck would have it, when the new students from the new neighborhood began arriving, many of them also came to us with additional needs and behavioral problems. Is that my buzzer?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Can I say one more thing really
Yes,
quick?
you can.
Okay. I just need to make it clear that I do not in any way find this the responsibility of our teachers or administration, and I have never seen a team of educators work harder. It's not uncommon for my daughter's teacher to respond to emails at 11 o'clock at night. I got an email from my principal in response to an email I'd sent her last week at 5 a.m. They're giving everything they can, but they were set up for failure, and they're just not getting the support that they need, and they are repeatedly requesting it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next speaker is Alyssa Bright, I think.
Hello. Hello. My name is Alyssa Bright, and I'm going to be speaking on the same matter that Carrie Clem did. I don't have as formal of notes as she did, so I'm really just speaking at something that has been on my mind as well for the last several years. I have a 1st grader and a 4th grader at Steck Elementary, and my 4th grader is in a class of 33, and my son, 1st grader in class of 28. Last year, again, they had large classroom sizes as well. The struggles, I want to shift to kind of Carrie covered a lot of the administrative and the fallout of just the stressors that are happening. But I sat down with my daughter and my son just to kind of get their take on it, because they're the ones sitting in the classroom every day, just to see what they feel like in a classroom like that. So they're just to wrap it up, 3 things. The biggest complaints they had, that in a classroom size that big, truly probably 18 people fit comfortably in those classrooms. And with 33 people, with a teacher and a TA and maybe 2 other TAs coming in, it doesn't get any bigger. So the biggest complaint is space. There's just not enough room. The desks are close, they back up into each other's, there's not enough space for their coats and their lunch boxes, and that causes issues, as you can imagine, when you don't have space. Many of our classrooms do not have air conditioning. So like last year, my son was in a classroom of 28 kindergartners with no air conditioning, and just the more bodies you put in there, the hotter it gets, which makes it harder to do anything when you're that hot. The second one is the noise level. Even when you're whispering, if 37 people are whispering, it's noisy. I have both my children are sensitive to sound, and really anyone, if you're sitting in a space where you're hearing a constant noise level the entire day, it gets just exhausting. By the end of the day, your head is just ringing. So it's difficult to hear all the instruction, and you're expected to hear all the instruction and respond immediately, and that's difficult. There's also just as Carrie said, there's too many kids to manage. So that's just the fact. One teacher who's ultimately responsible, 33 kids, 34 kids, that's gone. My daughter commented that the tally system seems to have kind of taken over the feel of the classroom and different spaces within the building, just because it has a group discipline feel to it versus then individualized success or praise, that everyone, 33 kids, have to be ready at the same time to do anything. And that's very, very hard. Also, as Carrie said, just because there's not enough eyes, people know that they can get away with things. So that's, again, something that she said. I will just say, again, wonderful teachers doing the best job. And so it's amazing what they've been able to do with that. And just, yeah, our goal is to have the best environment for our kids to just be able to learn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sally Glavin.
Hello. Thank you, STEC parents. I'm sorry you're going through this. For almost 3 years, I've stood here letting you know that this district has unacceptably high class sizes and that this is detrimental to the educational experience of 204 students. There is research by respected educators to support my often repeated claims, which I have shared with all of you on many occasions. As of this date, nothing has changed in the research or in 204's lack of responsiveness. There are still overly large classrooms throughout the district, and too many students are on the receiving end of a subpar education because of this. Unfortunately, very few here seem to find that large class sizes in 204 are unacceptable as class sizes continue to rise with no sign that next school year will be any different than previous ones. Just think of that. Despite research, despite parent concerns, despite student concerns, despite teacher concerns, and despite the existence of a legal contract spelling out classroom size limits, this district continues to schedule large numbers of students in classrooms throughout the district, thereby disregarding the research, parents, teachers, students, legal contracts, and any ounce of common sense that intuitively tells one that having 34 fifth graders in a core classroom, or 33, 34, 35 in your third, fourth, and fifth grades, 36 sixth graders in a science class, or 35 high schoolers in a math or conversational foreign language class means that the school day is nothing more than crowd control. For too long, this district has relied on parents willing to pay for private tutors to make sure that students are excelling. Unfortunately, parents are now forced to rely on private tutors just to make sure that students are getting the basics. I find this appalling. I don't know what it will take for the district to actually acknowledge that 204 is severely out of step with best educational practices of other higher performing districts. I certainly don't want our students to fail, but maybe it will take large numbers of students themselves to recognize that their school day is not at all representative of what a truly highly regarded education should be like, and they will call for action from those with that authority. Students have a lot of power, and after years of adults doing nothing but monitoring class sizes, it's now time for some action. The argument that the district is lacking in funds and is using money as responsibly as possible is also not entirely valid. Perhaps we don't receive funding at the same level as other school districts. However, it is entirely valid to question 204's use of funds. As an example, why is it acceptable to spend limited taxpayer dollars on the education of non-204 students? Why are we spending taxpayer dollars transporting students all the way out to Aurora University STEM school instead of using those funds to improve their home schools and further 204 students? Why are we contributing taxpayer dollars for the operation of a non-district building at Aurora University for their STEM school, which educates 3/4 non-204 students when our own buildings have so many needs? In a few moments, there will be a facilities update. Well, several $100,000 a year could be reallocated from the Aurora University STEM program to actual 204 facility needs. 2 teachers could come back to teach all 204 students, and students could attend their home schools. This seems like a no-brainer. Board of Education, you can't wait for another school year to go by before you choose to act. Class sizes need to come down. This is not an issue that can be kicked down the can any longer. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Val Montgomery. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, everyone. My name is Val Montgomery. I live in Naperville with my son, Trevor. We moved here for a better life. We're a military family. I get a call from Trevor's teacher. She was really concerned that Trevor has been very distant, non-responsive in class. He attends STEPS at Wabanzi. She went on to tell me that, Miss Montgomery, I did my research. Trevor at Matia Valley was an excellent student. He participated in calendar time. He was singing Michael Jackson songs every morning. Now he's not even using his voice. She went on to tell me, and I stopped her immediately and I said, listen, every morning I have to get up and argue with Trevor and make him go to school. I'm on my knees wrestling to put on socks. He's fighting me to put his shirt over his head. I said, and I'm asking him, I'm begging him to tell me what's going on. Is someone hurting you? Is someone saying anything to you? What is the problem? I can take care of it. Every day I'm making my son go to school and he seems extremely unhappy. And it wasn't like this in the past. So whatever I've broken, whatever we've broken, I just want to fix it so I can get my son back. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are now moving to our approval of our consent agenda items and also our superintendent report. We will begin with our superintendent report.
Okay. I want to start tonight by giving a shout out to the Naperville and Aurora police departments for their amazing cooperation and dedication to keeping our students safe on that National Walkout Day. There was significant behind the scenes work done, and on that day both police departments were very generous in their resources that they provided to the district. So we're really fortunate to have such a great partnership at both cities' police force. Our thanks to the Indian Prairie Parents Council, IPPC. They're hosting their 10th annual Student Summer Activities Fair on Thursday, March 22nd from 6 to 8 at Still Middle School. So exhibitors will provide information for summer programs and classes, including programs for special needs students, as well as information for volunteer opportunities for teens. Our last Engage 204 community engagement is set for tomorrow night, Tuesday, March 20th, at Still Middle School from 7 to 9 p.m. This meeting will focus on our finances and the costs needed to fund many of the suggestions we've heard from the community at previous meetings, including class size. So this will be a very important meeting, and we encourage everyone to come out and participate. The board is really interested in hearing the priorities of the community, so please visit the Engage 204 website for more information. And then with next week being spring break, which I can't believe it's already spring break. I want to wish all of our students, families, and teachers a relaxing and enjoyable break. Come back rejuvenated, because we have a final quarter to get through. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Now to the consent agenda items. I need a motion that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items D through K.
I move that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items D through K as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Jackie, can you call the roll?
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Rising?
Aye.
Ms. Peel?
Aye.
Ms. Deming?
Aye.
Mr. Razak?
Aye.
Mr. Karubas?
Yes.
Ms. Donahue?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now moving to our action items. And I need a motion. The recommended action is the Board of Education reject all bids for facility management and supply services received on February 23rd, 2018. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education reject all bids for facility management and supply services received on February 23rd, 2018 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Good evening, board members. We want to give you an update on the bids that were received for our facility management supply services bid. June 30th, our current contract expires. This contract is for a single source vendor to provide custodial, maintenance, grounds, in-district and U.S. mail processing, warehousing, and cargo move services. For the past 2 years, we've been unable to fill all of our open custodial positions. We found this was mainly due to the fact that the starting salaries for our custodians and even our grounds and maintenance people are well below what other area school districts are paying. As we prepared the specifications for this bid, we attempted to resolve some of that deficit to bring our starting salaries up to attract people to fill those positions. Bids were available on January 16th and received on the 23rd. 4 vendors attended the pre-bid conference. 2 bids were received, one from Aramark Services and one from GCA Services. Scope review meetings were held with both bidders. Unfortunately, the bids came in over what our expected increase for this contract was. Jay's going to talk a little bit more about finances.
With the economy improving, we expected that the facilities contract would come in higher. In fiscal year 2018, we paid $10,671,908 for the total service. We projected an increase just short of 10%, and we're looking for the bids to come in around $11,754,685. 11 million, excuse me, 11 million. The bids came in much higher, 21% higher than fiscal year 2018, so it was way outside of our budget. We approached the low bidder to negotiate a lower salary, lower cost to those bids, but we couldn't do it without changing the specifications to the bid, which we can't do. What we're asking now is with your rejection is that we change the scope, the level of services that we're requesting, and go back out for bid to bring the price of the services in line with what we've got budgeted. And Todd can talk to you about the next step in the process.
Jay, to be clear, though, you weren't able to change the scope of the bid due to Illinois law.
Correct.
As we're looking to, for the rebid, there are several specification changes that we can now make because now all bidders will have the opportunity to bid apples to apples. Several of those changes have been shared with you in previous memos. Basically, we're going to be looking to reduce the number of custodians on the night shift. As you recall, when we've gone through our austerity cuts back in 2010 through 2014, we did reduce the number of staff members, whether they were classified or licensed staff. This is the first time that we will be reducing the number of custodians. Also, we're looking to reduce the number of management staff, as well as eliminating some other services that was currently required. So we're prepared to make those changes and to go back out to bid, start the process all over again, and bring you a recommendation at the May 21st board meeting.
Questions? Ms. Donahue?
Yeah, do you anticipate with those changes that more people will bid or more companies will bid?
That's a hard question because I think the scope of our service, there are only a certain number of companies that can
That would cause them to
provide those services.
Okay.
There's a lot of cleaning companies out there, but it just also requires the maintenance and the grounds end and a lot of other services. It limits how many people are there. We do know that we received 2 good bids. They were very close to each other, and we anticipate those 2 vendors bidding again.
Are you, with the elimination of those custodians, obviously you said that, some work you're looking to increase pay, but we're also reducing the number of custodians. Do you think that will offset each other and be fair for those custodians that will be asked to take on more now?
Some of the cleaning responsibilities are going to be shifted when available from the night crew to the morning or the head custodians. Okay. We've heard that is something that is something they can pick up, but also they have to give up some of the things they may be helping staff with, which is really maybe outside of the current scope, but it's something that our staff has gotten used to.
Yeah. Okay.
Another question. Do you ever consider splitting the contract so that you don't have that mixture of field maintenance or outside maintenance with the other portions, custodial versus outside maintenance?
That hasn't been a consideration or thought about in the past.
We have outsourced our ground service other than part of this whole process. But with the limited management that we have in our operations and maintenance facility, the management really comes from the vendor that is provided. So if we were to do that, we would have to add administrators to our district to oversee those other contracts.
Others? Sometimes the obvious is not so obvious. We're not doing this just to, like, this is not save money or reduce custodians. It's the direct result of our budget.
Correct.
And we need to spend within our means.
Correct.
And when something is $1 million or so over what the bid is, it puts us at risk.
Correct.
So I guess that might be obvious, but sometimes it's not obvious to everyone. And we're at that tipping point again. That's what I think, I guess. Mr. Karubas, anything?
I'm ready to vote.
Let's call it. Jackie, can you call the roll?
Mr. Karubas?
Yes.
Ms. Peel?
Aye.
Mr. Rising?
Aye.
Ms. Donahue?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Rasak?
Aye.
Ms. Deming?
Aye.
Motion passes. We now move to our discussion, which is the facility, its update. Mr. DePaul.
Did we just see him over there?
Yeah.
Good evening, again. Want to thank you for the opportunity for us to provide our annual facilities update to you. Quick overview of tonight's presentation. We'll talk about our buildings, and yes, they're another year older. We'll show you a couple different views of our operations and maintenance budget and some uniquenesses within them. Talk about the major projects that we did in fiscal year 18, our fiscal year 19 bidding and construction timeline, and important facility issues that you need to be aware of, as well as our next steps. Back in 2014, EMG Corporation did a facility assessment of our buildings, in which they went into all of our buildings and evaluated the complete interior and exterior, our mechanical systems, the plumbing, HVAC, fire protection, electrical, and all of our site features, sidewalks, parking lots, drives, etc., athletic fields. They then looked at the remaining useful life of each item, and they developed a capital improvement program for us that looked out for 20 years and indicated that a building has a useful life of 75 years. Now, that's unless you go in and completely gut it out, replace all the systems. You can get longer life, but again, there's a substantial capital outlay to do that, because we're all aware of high schools that are 100 years or more, or buildings that are 100 years or more. Looking at our buildings and the 75 years of useful life, Indian Plains is negative at this point. And again, this is looking at when the the first part of the building was constructed, because we've had several additions on all of our buildings. But again, this is the original building. So Indian Plains is in the -14 range. Wheatland has 7 years remaining, Longwood 24, Wabansie 32, and then we go all the way up to Metea Valley, which is 66. Looking at our operations and maintenance budget for this year, this is our complete budget. Identified there are the different categories as identified on the state budget form as well as the Illinois Chart of Accounts. The salaries and benefits portion is our 204 employees within the operations and maintenance and security portion of our budget. Purchase services are those outside contractors. And again, Aramark is our largest purchase service at this point, being $10,618,000. Also, this is our outside contractors that come and do repairs. So everything from HVAC, electrical, fire protection, plumbing. It's also for our grounds or snow removal, or tree removal, pruning, any type of building repair that is done by an outside service. Supplies and materials are basically those things that we buy that our maintenance staff or custodians need to make repairs within the buildings. Okay, so this is any of our hardware or paint, electrical supplies, light bulbs, ceiling tiles, our maintenance staff as far as HVAC equipment, filters, and so forth. And then finally is our capital outlay portion. Now, all of these different categories have expenses that we're not totally in control of, and I'll explain that a little bit more later. But obviously, we can't get any more money, so these percentages within these categories will slide. Basically, it's a capital outlay portion that generally gets reduced when we have expenditures that are over what we anticipate in the other categories. And that's also where, during the austere times, that the district has come when they needed money for classrooms or for other items. We also have unplanned expenses, just like your home and your unplanned expenses. Okay, except our home is over 4 million square feet, which is the size of the Chicago Merchandise Mart. We have 662 acres, which is twice the size of Six Flags Great America, and we have paved areas, 101 acres, which is equal to Disney's Magic Kingdom. Lots of opportunity for unplanned expenses. As we reported a month or two ago, we have the Fisher Wall settlement issue. We're still exploring why that wall between doors numbers 4 and 6 is slightly rotated outward. Over spring break, we are bringing contractors in to dig pits outside so that our structural engineer can examine the foundation. We feel there's some cracks right around door number 5 that is allowing this to happen. Okay, we anticipate actually finding the cause of that over spring break and then planning to make repairs as soon as school gets out. Also, an unplanned expense, we found we had to reroute the sump pump discharge from the pool at Waubonsee. This is the original path that was put in back in '75, which ran under a large portion of the building. For some reason, either the pipe collapsed or something shifted, and we were getting discharged back in the building. Again, something we didn't plan about. And here we've had some HVAC failures in our server rooms, twice in the last 4 weeks that we've had to address, and we've been able to Band-Aid it at this point, but we're going to have to replace those units. And as you recall, those units are 20 years old and probably needed to be replaced, but because we haven't had any issues with them, they weren't included in our plan. So as you saw, or as you recall in the past chart, there was no portion for unplanned expenses. So those percentages within our budget are going to have to shift based on what actually occurs. Also, as we look at our comparable districts and see what they're spending on their operations and maintenance budget, again, this is everything in Fund 20, as far as spending, what they're spending per student. Naperville 203 leads away. The average is $1,262. You can see where we are spending at $805 out of our Fund 20. That again goes back to that pie chart we showed you. As we said, within the different categories, purchase services, these expenses are our largest, these are a sample of our largest expenses within those categories. They also give you an idea of where we need to be spending our future capital improvement dollars. And we showed you 3 years here so you can get a trend. Our kitchen equipment, they're getting to the point where it's no longer cost effective to repair, and Ron Johnson has had to build in capital monies within his budget to replace some of those. But until then, the repairs are coming out of operations and maintenance. We're spending more to repair our buildings, which is anything from wall repairs, windows, doors that aren't working, things that are failing within our buildings. Electrical has been pretty stable, fire protection also, but as you see, we're spending a lot of money on HVAC repairs. Motors, pumps, those types of things that are just wearing out. We need to replace those to keep our buildings running. Grounds, here the variable here is snow removal. Okay, luckily we had a pretty decent winter this year. As you see, back in 15, we spent a lot more on snow removal than we have the past 2 years. We don't necessarily have control over that. We have a lot of snow. We have to take care of it. And again, this portion is just for our outside contractor that does our drives and our parking lots. Everything for our sidewalks is covered by our custodians, and you'll see that on the next slide. Security, we've had some expenses. Water and sewer, utilities are normally in the next section, except for some reason there's an anomaly within the chart of accounts, and what we charge for water and sewers and the purchase service, sanitation, and the Aramark overtime is here. That is coverage for school activities that happen on the weekend or any time there isn't outside of the regular scheduled hours of our custodians. It's also for our maintenance crew when they have to go in and make repairs that can't happen during the school day or during the school week. So we do have a considerable amount of weekend overtime, and again, we try and limit that, but there's some times when it just can't be helped. Again, we have a lot of snow. Our time for our custodians to clear the sidewalks is indicated in this overtime. Our swimming pools require that we test the water daily, the Department of Public Health. That means we have to bring people in on Sundays to make sure we're doing the water tests and so forth. So those are all expenses that sometimes we don't have as much control over as we would like. Supplies and materials. Again, the trending here has been pretty flat over the last 3 years in most categories, except as you see in our utilities, the cost of natural gas and electric, that's purely dependent on weather. We have the polar vortex, and we're going to pay a lot more in natural gas for heating. We have hot springs and hot falls. Electric is going to increase because of our air conditioning. The maintenance supplies, as we talked about, all the things that our maintenance staff needs, or custodians to fix our buildings. As you see, those trends have been fairly flat. Same thing for our ground supplies, and that's mainly at our high school athletic fields, our varsity fields, baseball, softball, also seating for the rest of the athletic fields, as well as their areas around our buildings. Swimming pools take chemicals that we have to, of course, keep up on. The telecom is our radios, our wide area network fees, the costs for our internet and so forth. As you can see, trending, those have been fairly flat. The two variables here are really our natural gas and our electric. Focusing on our capital improvement budget, again, this is a historical look at what we've been able to spend on capital improvements. The top line is from EMG, who did our facility assessment, indicated that on an average we should be spending $8.5 million on capital improvements each year. The blue lines below are showing you what we have been spending and have been able to spend. And as you can see, from 2009, 2010 to 12, 13, that was where we were cutting a lot of money out of our budget. And again, attempting to keep it away from classrooms and taking it out of other portions. Fiscal year 18, major projects. We talked before, the main time to do construction, large construction programs are June, July, August. Okay, that really doesn't align well with our fiscal years. So during the summer months, we are finishing up one fiscal year, starting another, and we have a lot of overlap. These are examples of our major projects for fiscal year 18. Again, concentrating on building envelope, which is our masonry, our roofs, our windows, our doors. We obviously won't need to keep a tight building envelope, so we keep moisture out. You see some of the overlap. Last year, we did masonry projects at 5 schools. In fact, actually 6, because we had to add Collishaw. We're scheduled to do masonry restoration at 3. Georgetown, as you recall, we have a major wall leak there that we currently have tarps on to keep the moisture outside. So we are obviously going to correct that this summer. Steck has an issue. Again, it's a similar wall where we have issues at Georgetown. And Fisher has a lot of areas where we have water getting inside the building. We're also preparing Fisher to put in the step flashing so that we're ready to re-roof that the following year. That's one of our leaky roofs. At the time that building was built, the step flashing was not required. That's something that keeps the water, or allows the water to exit the wall rather than staying in it. So that's a step that we need to do that at the same time we're re-roofing. We found it was more economical to do that a year ahead of time and not include that in with a roofing contract. So we're trying to stay a step ahead. Last fiscal year 18, we finished the slope roof replacement at Kendall. That's the metal roofing. We're currently going to go out to bid for replacing the flat roof at Graham. That's one of our leakiest roofs. Our concrete asphalt projects are overlapping also. We completed Granger, Nequa, and Nequa Burkett last summer. We just determined, again, we still have 3 drives at Nequa, and then the parent drop-off area at Crone, and then the parking lot area at Graham is in desperate need of repair, and those are the 3 that we will be going out to bid for later this spring. Track repair at Mattia and Wabansie is also something we're going to be bidding. We're overlapping our phases of elementary air conditioning, which we'll go into detail a little bit later. We completed our boiler repair and installation project at Nequa. Again, that was somewhat of an unplanned expense from last year, where last spring, within 3 to 4 weeks of each other, both burners failed and the big boilers there. We were able to repair one immediately to get us through the spring, and then we're able to repair the second one this school year, as well as take advantage of installing 2 energy efficiency boilers to run during the early spring or early fall or late spring, rather than running the big boilers that we need to run during the wintertime, again, for energy efficiency. A couple board meetings ago, you approved the installation of cabling and security cameras at Nequa and Waubonsee. Those are replacing the 2000 vintage systems that were installed. Cabling is progressing very well, and that project is on schedule. As well as we made ADA modifications, which we'll have some pictures of shortly, the band and chorus rooms at Waubonsee. In fact, here they are. These rooms were built with concrete risers. Unfortunately, the one room that had a ramp in there was not ADA compliant. So we had to tear out the concrete, which is shown in the picture on the left, and really flatten the floor from the front of the room all the way to the back where we had steps, which is what you're seeing on the picture on the right-hand side. Here's the parking lot being removed at Granger. Also, new curbs being put in at the parking lot that's just north of the tennis courts at Nequa and south of the stadium. This will help. We had some issues with water sitting in this parking lot, and that was because of the curb elevations weren't at the right, or needed to be raised. That's what's happening here, and that certainly has improved that situation. Here's a Kendall metal roof being installed on the slope area in the back of the building on the left-hand side, as well as on the right-hand side, which is the back of the booth, back of the building. The left-hand picture is actually the front. And as you can see on the right-hand side, there is masons working on the through-wall flashing, which that building had through-wall everywhere except in that one location. So we took advantage of putting that in, since it was only a one-wall situation. Elementary air conditioning. This is phase 4. We previously showed you, excuse me, pictures of rooftop condensers being raised by cranes and put on the roof, or the evaporators being installed in the classrooms. In this project, we had to upgrade 8 electrical services in order to accommodate the new air conditioning units. The picture in the upper left shows that we had to put some of this electrical equipment outside because the main electrical room was already full with equipment. It required a new transformer, which is shown in the picture on the bottom left. Unfortunately, the location of these made it a lot more easier for people to climb on them and get up on the roofs. So rather, in an effort to take that attraction away, we did enclose them within fencing, and that's what the picture on the right shows. So that was a little wrinkle in this phase of the air conditioning. Fiscal year bidding, 19 bidding timeline. The phase 4, the elementary air conditioning, is scheduled to be done in August of 2018. We will start the flat roof replacement at Graham in June and finish that in August. We have the masonry restoration at the 3 schools, which is Georgetown, Steck, and Fisher. And then we have the hardscape projects that we will be doing at small projects at Nequa, Crone, and Graham. And we will be bringing those to you at future board meetings. Cost of deferring projects. We've talked about this previously, but we're behind in our roof repairs. We have approximately $8 million that we figure that we are behind in roof replacements and masonry. Our elementary air conditioning is not complete yet. To completely air condition the remaining classrooms in the LMCs, there's $7 million left to do that project. In some of our buildings, we have obsolete heating and cooling controls. We no longer can get parts for these. We've been able to Band-Aid them through. However, if they fail, we will lose the ability to control our temperatures in our classrooms. And Safe Havens did a security audit back in April of 2015 and made a recommendation to upgrade our locks on our classroom doors and upgrade our intercom systems to help us when we have to go into a lockdown situation. Now, our classrooms do have locks. They're able to be locked, but in order to do so, if the door's not already locked, the teacher has to go out in the hall and lock it. Okay, this upgrade is to put a core on the inside that would allow the teacher to lock the door from the inside. It also would allow any phone within the building to make intercom announcements informing others of what's happening within the building. Right now, you have to go to the main office and use the administrative phone. So these were recommendations that were made by Safe Havens. Our safety committee a year ago prioritized this as something that we should be doing when we have monies available. These estimates do not include all of the deferred projects. We haven't talked about really the aesthetics, the painting, the replacement of ceiling tiles or cracked floor tiles. As you saw, we did some replacement at Wabansie, but that was because the tiles were actually popping up and becoming safety issues. So these are estimates of our most similar deferred projects, but currently not all of them. As we talked about roofing, this is to show you what we have been spending on roof replacements. Again, the top green line is from the EMG Facility Assessment Survey saying that on a yearly average, we should be spending $1.8 million for roof replacements. The blue lines show what we have been spending over the years, with the red showing what we're doing for roof repairs. That's when we have a leak. Obviously, we're not replacing a whole roof, but we're having a contractor come in and replace the shingles or the portion of the flat roof or whatever where the leak is occurring from. An update on the elementary air conditioning project. 4 years ago, we began this project. The board approved us moving ahead to install air conditioning in the classrooms of those 19 elementary schools that did not have a central air conditioning system. Now, this wasn't a central air conditioning system similar that we have at Owen or Peterson or the high schools or even here, but it was putting units in the classrooms that would provide air conditioning to that particular classroom. We looked at at several different options, and it was recommended that we do this in all the core classrooms and the LMC because it was, as you're aware from our architectural layout, the classrooms are surrounding the LMC, and also it's easy to zone off that portion from the rest of the building. So it's not air conditioning our hallways or any of our small offices or the multi-purpose room or the gym, but it's just providing units in the individual classrooms. At that time, it was estimated that doing that project at one time it would cost about $13.8 million. And again, that was compared to air conditioning the whole building, which was estimated at over $40 million. So we began tackling this problem in phases. Basically, when funding became available, either because we received delayed state aid payments, or the board authorized us to go into deficit spending. So in August, we will be completing phase 4, which will have installed air conditioning in 67% of our elementary classrooms. In order to finish the project, as you saw before, we need $7 million to complete the remaining classrooms and the LMC area. Energy management initiatives. Last year, we came to you and requested that we enroll in the ENERNOC Demand Response Incentive Program. Okay, you allowed us to do so, and this, when a critical energy day is called by the energy grid provider, we voluntarily can attempt to reduce our energy consumption. Okay, basically what that means for us is we need to turn off the air conditioning. Okay, there were 5 buildings that this program were enrolled in at Fisher, Granger, Mattia, Still, and Waubonsee. We were told by other school districts and by ENERNOC that in recent history, the energy grid provider has not declared a critical energy day. And other school districts viewed this as free money because if there was no critical energy day declared, the only thing you had to do was participate in a 1-hour test in which you had to curtail your energy. Last year's 1-hour test was Tuesday, August 29th between 4 and 5 p.m. The only thing we had was after school meetings and rehearsals. We were able to curtail our energy for that 1 hour in those 5 buildings, although we didn't hit our goal for Waubonsee, and that was mainly due to the fact that the control system there does not give us the full ability that we have in the other buildings to do so. But we were overachieved at Fisher, Granger, Mattia, and Still, and Waubonsee was about 70% of our goal. We will receive approximately $45,000 for being able to do that this year. ENERNOC projected that over 5 years we should receive $345,000 if we're able to meet our energy curtailment goals. So we anticipate, and hopefully there won't be a critical energy called again. It will just be that one test day, and we'll be able to do that. ComEd does have a new program where they are going to be starting free energy audits in all 14 of the schools within their territory, and they will be identifying ways where we can save even more energy. They do have some rebate programs now that if you replace rooftop units, you get a certain percentage of rebate. And with our need to replace the server units here, that's going to help us out. So we anticipate taking advantage of that. Our next steps, again, we need to live within our budget. We need to curtail our expenses, especially for those things that we can control. Our capital improvements, we have this hierarchy which you have seen before. Obviously, if there's a safety-related item, we do correct that, and we do take care of those things. If there's an approved curriculum-related need or a change in delivery, and that's something that a curriculum department needs, that's the next item that gets done. Obviously, our necessary repairs. The state required life safety projects. Once every 10 years, an architect and engineer will walk through each of our buildings and identify those items. Building codes have changed, and they're rated. We have a certain amount of time to correct those before the next audit occurs. And then our aesthetic issues, which we really have not been able to address. Those are the things that continue to get deferred. We were continuing to explore grant and other cost-saving opportunities. And now, if you have any questions.
Mr. Price, would you like to start?
Yeah, I just wanted a clarification on slide, slide number 7. I just want to clarify this, the increases in 16 and 17, that was the air conditioning, that does include the air conditioning additions?
No, the air condition, no, this has nothing, this has to do with HVAC repairs, which could be boilers,
Okay.
Air conditioning, pumps, other equipment. That's just what what it
Because
costs
our-
to keep our HVAC systems running.
So because those units are getting older, our
Yes.
costs are increasing. Okay, I just
Yep.
wanted to clarify that because the assumption could be that it's because we added air conditioning.
No,
Okay,
no,
thank
that's
you.
not shown there.
Thank you.
Mr. Rising?
You might want to wait for me.
Ms. Deming?
When are we due to, and you probably shared this, but when are we due to complete the elementary air conditioning?
Basically, based on funds available. Currently, historically with our capital improvement budget, because of our construction season, main construction season being June, July, and August, that's where we have to, first of all, go out to bid early so that we get competitive pricing. And also, it's a very short season, so those things that can't be done during the school year have to be bid first. So not knowing what our budget's going to be, Jay has traditionally indicated that has allowed me to bid $2.5 million worth of capital improvement projects early in the year. Once he determines what the budget is, there's normally additional monies that become available, and then we prioritize projects based on that. Luckily, the elementary air conditioning project can be done during the school year. We've proven that we're in phase 4 and successfully doing that project during the school year. So if monies are available and that project is prioritized, we can kick that off as we have done in November and still have it completed in August. So right now, there's not another phase planned, or I should say there's not another phase funded. We are planning what we feel could be the next phase, and so that if funds are available and it is a prioritized project, we can go out to bid.
Ms. Peel?
Yeah, so I was looking at slide 3, of, the remaining useful life. And I'm looking at Longwood, which is at 24 years left. I'm looking at Northside Schools. Several of them are on that side of the graph here. And unless I'm mistaken, you said 75 years is the typical lifestyle, so we got to start planning on redoing these schools unless we think we're going to find some property to replace these schools. I don't think that's going to be the case. And none of your, what do you call them, deficits included anything like that. So, you know, you have been more depressing than Jay. So.
Sorry.
I didn't think it was possible. Jay just depresses us once a year. You've depressed our whole outlook. So, yeah. Thanks.
There you have it. Ms. Donahue?
A continued concern that because of budget, we have to defer things that are important to our district. I mean, it's good that we have a prioritized list of what we pick, how we pick things, but continued concern that we aren't able to fund this for many years now at the level that we should be. So I also look at that chart, Kathy, and think, boy, I don't want to be on the school board in about 30 years because you're going to have how many of these schools coming up against a really bad situation. So
I see our unplanned expenses list growing because of that. Yeah.
Mr. Karubis?
Looking at that slide 3, the way I look at it is we've got all this deferred maintenance. And it's in effect reducing the remaining useful life of the buildings. Because we're not able to properly maintain the HVAC, so the HVAC requires more work. So that's the way I look at that slide, that we're borrowing from our buildings once again. So I think we need to find a way. Well, question for Jay. Slide 6.
I'm going to need you two up here, Jay.
If we were,
Thought you had the night off.
get that man a mic. If we were to spend, this is slide 6, yeah. We spend $800 per student. If we were to try to spend what 203 spends, $1,800 per student. How much would we need to spend? How much would we need to spend in additional money? Approximately.
We presently budget $32 million in Fund 20, which is all of our capital projects.
Can you pull that mic forward a little bit, please?
Sure, sorry, excuse me. We presently budget $32 million into Fund 20, which is our capital projects, our maintenance of our buildings, our custodians, our grounds, our facilities. And if we were to spend what Naperville's spending, it'd be closer to $49 million that we would be budgeting to get our work done.
The exhaustive list that all deferred projects, or just the ones that?
No.
That would, no, that's not the deferred projects, that's ongoing.
It's just average spend per
Annual.
pupil.
Correct.
Looking at slide 9. EMG recommends to us we spend $8.4 million per year. Looking over the last 10 years, we haven't spent that.
No, some years we've spent $6 million less than that.
Right. So that's all deferred maintenance that we can see based on what we should be spending on a yearly basis. So we've got a deferred maintenance hole. That's the borrowing we're doing from our buildings. We need to find a way to spend what our consultant asks us to spend on these buildings, or we're going to continue to reduce the useful life expectancy of our buildings. So I think we should plan on changing our budget to include this amount so that we can properly maintain our buildings. Because although I don't want to be here on the board in 30 years, I'm a long-term resident. I like to see that these buildings are properly maintained. That's it.
So can I ask you a clarifying question? That assumes that if we spend the $8 million, that we're cutting some other program.
Sure, let's have that conversation. I mean, I think we can all agree we need to walk out of here with a balanced budget. But we can't keep walking out with spending our buildings.
Okay, but I've been on this board for 7 years.
I see that.
I was not part of the 2 years prior that Kathy was on, but in the last 9 years, we've made reductions to our budget, probably close to 45 million by now, approximately. that had to do with staffing, which raised class sizes, and we've made other cuts that haven't affected our kids in the classroom or, activities or things like that, while still spending money on including additional educational things like technology and testing and new ways of curriculum and that type of thing. But my point is that where's that money going to come from? Because for 6 out of the last 9 years, our CPI has been below 2%. Our average, just in regular expenses, probably go up 3 to 4% a year, I would assume, about. Not including reductions in prorating of state funding. When our enrollment was going down, when money was based on enrollment, that was less money to us. And property values were going up, but we can only levy what CPI is. And that was, for 6 of the last 9 years, below 2%. So we've made cuts that we can keep up with the budget. We can't levy anymore. We have to keep reducing and finding cuts in order to just balance our budget every single year. So I guess, that's a question and something we need to prioritize, because where does that fit into everything else? Because as I see it right now, and it's sad that we've had to borrow from the buildings and maintenance, and operations and maintenance, for all these years just to make up, to balance our budget and to cushion some of those cuts that we've had to make in other places. So, it's going to be some tough conversations.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to remind everyone, I was at a IPPC meeting last week, and sometimes we don't remind everyone that our board presentations and our slides are always available on the website. So I saw some people here very interested, and sometimes you have to squint to see what we have to see. So if you don't want to squint and you want the full information, please go to the district website. All that information is there, and you always can process that. So please do that.
Sometimes you still have to squint.
That's correct.
For
but
some
it's
of us, still have to.
PDFs have that enlarge button, though. That's nice.
Board update. Susan, I don't know if you need encouragement to ask people to come tomorrow?
It's imperative. We are going to have our final Engage 204 session tomorrow evening. It is going to cover what we have discussed this evening. I'll be providing facilities update, and it is, we need to hear from you. It's vital. We're expecting to receive recommendations to the board within the next couple months, and it's vital that we have as much input from the community as possible. We need to know what your priorities are and helping us make a determination on how we move forward, addressing the budgetary issues, but ensuring that we're providing the best educational value that we can for our students. And we need to hear from you. So please come tomorrow night, still middle school, 7 p.m.
And I'm going to add to that, everything will be on the table that we discussed on the last 4 engagements. So that has been kind of priced out, and we're going to ask for input into how the community thinks we should spend their money, given when and if. I heard that. When and if we get money, how should we prioritize that? And that will be on the table. So I ask you to come and I ask you to bring 10 people because we need that input. As you can see, this is a tough meeting, whether it's class size, whether it's our buildings, whether it's paying teachers. Everything's important, yet we need to maintain a balanced budget. So please come tomorrow. In your packets, there's lend information. The information is similar as always, since the vote is going to occur and no one wants to take a stand on anything while they're running for election. The usual suspects of bills were discussed, and whether that was TRS pension cost shift, e-learning, dual credit, or property tax freeze. Those are all things that the DuPage administrators are looking at and trying to provide advocacy, but it's a bit slow. It might get a little bit more exciting, but maybe not, given that we have to wait for a November election to see what may occur in terms of changes. Talking about voting, I would encourage everybody in the community to exercise the liberty to vote. It's important that we have people who listen to our needs as a school board and do a little bit of research and vote. I think it's very important. It's important to us. And finally, as Dr. Sullivan said, I just wanted to extend on behalf of the board a safe and restful spring break, and that includes all the administration too. With that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.